Hi, everybody. Immediately, I'm going to need somebody to explain to me how when the keeper has the ball in his hands and the referee goes to look at VAR and gives a penalty kick after the play is already dead. That is something I need to find out right now. What goes through that referee's head when he makes that decision? Overall, this is a game which I think gets determined by two quick goals, two uncharacteristic goals, two that were the first to occur in the Stadio Olimpico for Roma in 2023. So that's a shock at first. Why does that happen? Part of it's because of a heavy rotation. Look at the position on the field where they occurred, which is exactly where Mancini typically occupies. So Kumbulla comes on, and he has a really tough day today, and one that is really disappointing, one that won't help him get more minutes on the pitch. Let me know what you're feeling. I see there's already a bunch of comments in, and today is a frustrating day for sure. However, in a nutshell, I don't think that Roma played all that bad. In fact, I think they showed a lot of character, a lot of heart and hustle to get back into this one and to really try to turn the result around. We see Dybala come in the second half. We see a bunch of youngsters that enter the fray for Salvatore Foti, who was on the bench because Mourinho has his 2-match ban. And I'm left feeling disappointed, not so much that the team let me down. I don't feel that way at all. In fact, I felt that they tried really hard and mounted almost an incredible comeback. And what was the final score? It was 4-3, was it not? So Roma almost gets done, aside from being down for an entire half, actually for 50 total minutes, 51 minutes, because extra time was 6 minutes plus. So I am maybe proud is not the correct word, because it's still a loss, but I think that they showed a lot of character today to try to fight to come back. Also, like I said just a few minutes ago, that heavy rotation, how that played a part in today's game, I don't want to undermine that, because I think that what they did show was a lot of heart, hustle, speed, and some quality goals to add to that from Zalewski, who finally got his first goal of the season, and then Wijnaldum, who gets his first goal of the season, Dybala, who scores 1 and almost 2 incredible goals, but we can't keep out Loriente. I will say that Sassuolo got a bit lucky for those first 2 goals, but then, like I mentioned, that defensive rotation, who's marking who, and not picking up Loriente, who's been one of the most dangerous wingers in the league, is something that he makes Roma pay for. I want to get to some of these comments right now, keep spitting them in, and keep going on. Marcus says, I won't spit venom here. Give me a straight answer. Why do pro-Roma media and journalists censor every word against Jose? Jose is a mediocre manager or fraud, if you will. I don't feel that way. I think that the press goes with the flow, the way things are going, and like the aria, the air around Rome, in that when things are bad, he will be criticized. I've seen him get criticized. So last year, this year, think about before Roma hit their good stretch, which occurred, I think, around late February, early March last season. Previous to that, Mourinho was criticized quite a bit in the media. He hasn't been so much this season because Roma has done pretty well in sides, and times when they've lost, like today, they still showed an identity, and I think that's why. But when it comes to creating, I mean, Roma scored 3 goals today. So they scored 2 of those with a man down. You got to give the credit where it's due today. Pellegrini and Bryan unavailable. Mancini and Dybala rested. 4 leaders off the pitch, Rocco says. Yes, absolutely. Pellegrini in the past 2-3 games has been really influential. Against Juventus, a very strong Juve, he put in a heck of a game. He was the spearhead of the trident there, playing as a false 9-ish, if you will. But his defensive contribution really made that game. It helped Roma get away with just, a few chances on net, but that was the game plan the entire time. Juventus, extremely dangerous side. And then Cristante, who has also been really good. If we think about Real Sociedad, Cristante had one of his best matches in a Roma uniform, and then he misses out. Against Juventus, plays barely a foot wrong, wins lots of balls, initiates many counterattacks, or not even counters, but retaking of possession. And Dybala, who comes on in the second half, he's not started for a reason, because there's only so much juice you can get out of little magic Dybala, and Mancini as well sits the sidelines. So with this rotation, Rocco makes a great point. 4 leaders, that's where those 2 goals come from, guys. But on top of that, the fact that you can have this rotation and still go out there and almost scrape a win back is a testament to the character of this team. Rocco says, let's acknowledge that Fratesi torched us all game. And thank you, Pinto. But get rid of Zaniolo at all costs. So I regret that deal did not happen for Fratesi. I think he could have been major help, especially in a game like today. Also, you would have taken away Sassuolo's best players. It's unfortunate they couldn't have came to an agreement, but Carnevali and the organization at Sassuolo don't budge. Even today, he said, we have a good rapport with Roma, but it just depends on the money. Why Roma could not get that over the line has to do, I believe, a lot with financial fair play and accounting purposes. I don't think it's this case of Pinto just being stubborn and not wanting to get it done. I think that it's 2 sides who weren't able to compromise, so I think it's both parties here. Chifus checks in, says, Marco, Roma plays solid football. I felt today that they did. I liked what I saw. I liked the Roma, aside from the 2 goals, of, some mistakes. I think that a couple individuals probably did not fulfill their role. I think some opportunities were missed, some runs weren't made, some touches were sloppy. But overall, I did think that the team played solid football. So I'm going to run through some comments. I know there's a lot of back and forth between some people here, but I'm not going to hit every single comment if they're aimed at one another, just for the sake of the channel. But Roman says here, without that stupidity, we would have had at least taken a point from this, but without Mancini and Cristante, where we were not that bad, and we didn't concede for so long at home. So let's talk about Kumbulla. What happens there? He goes down, or I should say, he's over Berardi, and then what does Berardi do? But he gestures to him. I'm going to back up right now. And he goes, and he raises his leg just like that. He motions as if he's going to kick him right where you know where. And Kumbulla responds, which he shouldn't have done. But as soon as Berardi did that, the play should have been called. But Berardi should have been given a yellow, if not a red, for that. And then Kumbulla, as he retaliates, yes, you give both of them a red. There's no penalty because the play is dead. And then you go down to 10 men each. I don't know why that was so hard for the referee to decide to do, why he couldn't have the moral compass, which was appropriate for that given play. So I'm baffled by it. I saw another play, I'm trying to think off the top of my head right now, where maybe it was El Shaarawy. Somebody was tackled from the back. It was a nasty tackle, and they just got a yellow. And I think it was not Trossard, but I think it was like the outside back for Sassuolo. I'm forgetting his name off the top of my head. If I see it, let's see what the lineup was, and I'll tell you. I think it was Tolian, actually, or Tresoldi, perhaps. Tresoldi, who put his boot through the leg of one of our players, and it was just a yellow. I'm like, no, brother, that's a red. That is dangerous play. That's how you break someone's leg. So complete, just unprofessional, poor management. I think another time where Roma is affected negatively by referees, and to be honest with you, I'm getting really sick of it, and I know that you are too. So on to Mari Kamara. He comes in in the second half, and that was for, checking here, that was for Matic after Matic wins the ball. And then, guess what? He gets a yellow. Another referee error there. So that was such a good tackle by Matic. He was visibly upset, and then he's taken out. But I think the reason why Kamara hasn't gotten as much time is due to his technical abilities. I think that he suffers by playing the smart pass, by playing the final pass. And you could probably say that for the rest of Roma's midfielders. But he doesn't seem, what I saw today, to have that connection with Tammy Abraham. They weren't reading each other as well. So when Mourinho says, I'm not picking Kamara because of a technical choice, I tend to believe him by what I saw today. Now, does a midfielder need time? Does a player need to adjust and get used to actually being on the field rather than just on the practice pitch? Yes, of course. I totally get that. But I also see perhaps why, or an alibi, as to why Kamara has not played so much this time. Roman says, we used all our luck against Juve. So there's this discussion talking about Juve, that Mancini's play, the way that we're paying for what Mancini did, and that there's like this, I don't know, symbolism that Roma paid the price now because Mancini should have gotten a red, and it's the same thing that Berardi did, it's a provocation. No, that's not a provocation. So what Mancini did, I could see how you could see that as a provocation, but he holds him back. It's a professional defensive play, which he gets a yellow card for appropriately, right? Mancini deserved that yellow card. However, it was not outside the scope of the game. What Berardi did is completely different. He went to play in an area where you don't touch any man ever, you don't kick them there, and that's completely uncalled for. And the fact of the matter is, we have a situation where both players are not treated equally by the referee, and then on top of that, for a dead ball, or I should say a play that was closed, the referee then decides to give a penalty kick. I can't live with that. I can't accept that, guys. It's too much for me to handle. It's too stupid. Zalewski, no, I thought that Zalewski had a decent game. You know, he had that goal. I thought he had a good shift today. Vincent says, Mourinho does not help by always getting reds. Well, Mourinho wasn't there today. Berardi always linked with Roma. Not anymore. He was a virus today. Yeah, so I don't think that one's going to happen. I was thinking about that too, Sam, that Berardi for the last 5-6 years, there's always this link that pops up with him. And even when Zaniolo was rumored to be going to Juventus last season, it was this possibility that Berardi steps in. But after this, I don't think that he's going to be received too kindly by the Stadio Olimpico. You can't just be defending Roma unjustifiably. So elaborate what you mean by that. Let me know. It's not just defending Roma, because I did say that we succumbed to 2 early goals, which shouldn't have had. I thought that we made a mess of it at the first, and you can't. I mean, these were the first 3 goals scored at the Olimpico in 2023. We do have blood on our hands for that. However, there's a lot of other plays and moments in this game which I think were ridiculous, and I still do think that Roma showed up with a lot of heart and hustle today. To use that phrase, heart and hustle. At the end of the day, Marco says, I feel sad but happy that anti-football gets smashed by an average Sassuolo team. Average Sassuolo, I disagree with. This Sassuolo beat Milan 5-2. They have the second most points in the last 8 games, second only to Napoli, and they have only lost 1 in their last 8 or in their last 6. So this Sassuolo is anything but average. They have one of the league's best wingers in Lauriente, who made Roma pay today. Berardi, who is the captain of this side. Pinamonti, who's a decent young striker, a lot of energy. The midfield is very good with Fratesi, Maxime Lopez. Maxime Lopez is one of the best center midfielders at keeping possession in the league. The defense is not top-notch, their mid-level defense. However, this Sassuolo as a whole is coached by a really good manager, and respect to them. I do. Yeah, come on. Anyway. Let's keep going on. Kumbulla deserved the red, he says, but wasn't a pen too much since the play had already stepped. Yep, so it's crazy. Roman says, I don't like Bove. He's one-sided player. Only decent when defending, but bad in possession. I think that is the area where Bove needs to work on the most. He's good at winning the ball back, making good slide tackles, but it's true that in possession, he still has a lot of work to do. Marco says, we were lucky against Juve. Don't speak just about Mancini. We were awful versus Juve. I didn't think Roma were awful at all. I thought Roma defended really well. Thought they were the first to the ball constantly. They limited Vlahovic to, I think, one touch in the entire keeper's box the entire match. So that's all you need sometimes, is one lucky moment, is one clear shot on goal. And that's the way that they play, though. So we think of champagne football as being the only way to play, but it's not true. Is that you can play defensively and win. Look at Mourinho throughout his tenure. You can't, as much as you don't like Mourinho, some of you still have to respect the fact that he's the most winning coach in Europe, and he did it playing the same tactics we're using today that we played throughout this entire season. So to just say it's anti-football and it doesn't work is not true, because it has. That football tactically does not surpass defensive, hard-nosed playing. It doesn't grow out of that. It's not that, finally they figured it out and Guardiola knows how to beat the press or beat the low block. It doesn't work like that. It's a matter of discipline, organization, and taking your chances. That's Mourinho's football. That's why at Inter, those guys like Samuel Eto'o, Diego Milito, they were sharpshooters. They only needed 1 or 2 chances to decide the game. That's why they were so good. Rocco says, we lost Mourinho. He benched Dybala and Mancini. That's it. Roma scored 2 goals while a man down. That says a lot. I think so too. So Mourinho benches Dybala. I have to imagine that's due to fitness, right? And Mancini. So, and like that rotation has been really tough. Upset with the ref. Knew it was going downhill when we gave Smalling yellow for that unintentional handball. By the way, it was first chest, then hand. The ref was wearing Milan underwear. We know it was up. Smalling gets yellow for handball. 2 minutes later, Sassuolo does the same thing. No card. All right. NM says, Mourinho's resume is undeniable, but now he has a record at Roma that has frankly been under par, even given the Conference League, which Roma should win 99 out of 100 times anyway. Well, Roma won the Conference League, right, against Feyenoord, and played the same type of tactics. Zaniolo scored that goal, and Rui Patricio came up really big. So, I don't know. I feel like people are getting frustrated because of the lack of results, because of a poor showing today. However, on the flip side, it doesn't matter the manager, guys, for what happened there. The fact of the matter is we made 2 defensive mistakes. We shut off mentally. However, for 91 other minutes, this team showed up and outplayed Sassuolo. Even when Sassuolo had men up and they're a pressing team, Dionisi did not have answers to beat Roma's press, who had a man less. So tell me that about tactics. Where does that play in? Where does that play into the characters that these guys showed tonight to try and rescue a point? It's not just that Dybala is good and everyone else is bad. That's really minimizing the situation, I think. Roma says, now we really have to win the derby. Roma gets that chance now. Going into next weekend, we get the chance to prove everything aside, right? We lost the first leg where Roma was the home team. Lazio is the home team this time. And we get a chance to put this bad result behind us and show that what happened against Juventus was not a fluke. I can't wait for Sunday, honestly. Rocco says, people wanting Mourinho out forget how Fonseca's champagne football was. Give Mourinho a couple center mids, another center back, win the Scudetto. And I totally believe it. Like, it's frustrating for me as a fan, too, to just think of the fact that it's just a matter of a manager who plays attacking football. That's not it. Mourinho is shrewd. You have to trust in him. And if you're getting frustrated with a 1-0 win against Juventus because Roma's not doing enough, well, how frustrated would you be with Fonseca, Rudy Garcia losing 2-3 that same match? So it's just another style. It's not that one is wrong and one is correct. That's your personal opinion about it. But what I have seen is a lot of growth. I've seen this team improve quality-wise since last season. Okay, they didn't finish that good in Serie A, but I do think that this season they're playing overall better. We dropped points against a very good team. We dropped points against Cremonese, and I know people will jump back to that one. I get it. Look, bad matches happen too. But overall, in the big picture, I am satisfied with what I see. The results, I'm always left wanting more. I want to win the Scudetto. That's my goal as a fan. So results, not there yet. Not aligned with, I think, that how good this team can be. Marcus, I'm not frustrated with the result, but for the way we play. I don't care about it. I just want to see sensible football with a team that is concentrated and consistent. I think, Marco, that one thing which would make this team a bit easier to watch is a number 9 who played more off the shoulder of the last defender. And one thing that I think where Tammy needs to improve is playing off that shoulder. There were 2 or 3 runs today where he did not make. And I think if we did see those and he got in and he got behind and nailed the goal home, we'd be like, okay, that's exactly what we want to see. That is what Marco points out here as being sensible football. Yeah, for sure. But instead, I think that in the offensive section, in our final third, there is still work to be done. Whether it's Belotti or Abraham or whoever you want to throw up there, the fact of the matter is, when we don't have that number 9 sliding in behind off the counter, it starts to look nonsensible, as Marco points out here. Ali says, it's absurd that some treat Mourinho so unfair. I understand the frustration, but we're building a project, and a project does not get diminished, marginalized by some individual errors. Yes. Yes, exactly. So let's look back at a couple other moments of this match. So that goal from Zalewski I thought was very good. Overall, Zalewski this season has struggled. I think athletically and as far as his overall game, he's been gotten found out against Juventus. He went up against a very good Kostic, where I think his weak points were really exposed. And then we have Roma finishing the half up on a high up until added time there with Kumbulla getting the red card. And those 3 goals conceded in the first half were more, like I said, than the last 3 months. So Roma entered the second half a man down and down 2 goals. But they start out on the front foot, which I thought was the appropriate reaction that you wanted to see without even their manager on the bench. So these guys know it is required to them. Halftime sub, Karsdorp comes on for Spinazzola, Dybala comes on for Bove, and it very much changes the dynamic of this team. 10 minutes later is when Kamara comes on for Matic. There were a few other substitutions there. Volpato comes on, and he, we just couldn't get it done, guys. It's a shame. I think that Wijnaldum played a good game. On top of that, I think the midfield did what they could. We are a bit technically limited at times, and the defense. So Sam says, I love Tammy and his emotion towards Roma, but seriously needs to control himself in the final third. Slips, missteps, or loses possession there 7 out of 10 times. I think that's a reality of the situation. All the so-called attacking teams in the world have the players to do it. But what in the world do you think Pep could do with this Roma squad? He wouldn't even take the job. Mourinho does. I don't think it's much better if Pep's out here. Really? You as a manager cannot step on and say, don't slip there. Watch out for that. Take a better touch. This is not a high school JV team where you're working on technical aspects of the game. These players know what they need to do. Mark says we got outplayed by. See, what you see, Marco, as being outplayed is a low block and defensive style ball, which is made about getting possession, low down, and hitting the team quickly, making an offensive motion, a sequence very quickly. Not some methodical process the way like a Guardiola wants you to pass it around, and then finally when there's an inch of space, pass the ball through. That's not it. So I understand what you're saying. Like, it looks like we get outplayed, but in fact, Roma are letting teams come in and absorb that pressure. That's the idea here. So it looks bad. I get that. But in reality, that is part of the plan. The only game he says we played well was Real Sociedad. I remember Gini missed one-on-one in like the first 5 minutes. And yeah, you put those away and it swings the match in a totally different style. Don't think Kumbulla will last long. What is it? 6 starts, 5 losses? Ooh, that's a point. It's like a therapy session with Wayne, Marcos says. Yeah, and that's good because we have to communicate. We have to talk. And everyone has to, you don't have to agree with someone, but I think once you have that dialogue with somebody, you can get to understand a different perspective, and it starts to make sense. And once you share beliefs and ways of thinking, yeah, like Marco says here, it can get you to just come to like a common ground, because there's times where I'm frustrated and then I'll be like, oh, this guy says, the team showed character because they played this way and they didn't give up. Part of me is like, I don't care about character and this and that, because the only thing that matters is 3 points. But it's hard. The difficult thing to do is to remove yourself emotionally and look at this from a wide range and say, you know what, Wijnaldum is back, Dybala did not start, Mancini did not start, and the rest of Pellegrini, Cristante, our leaders were not there on the pitch. And as much as those guys have been criticized in the past, you know what, in the past month, they've really turned it on. And we pay the price. It's very frustrating. Kumbulla has a lot of work to do as a player. There's a reason why he hasn't gotten a lot of time. And I think that, like Edward pointed out here, 6 starts and perhaps 5 losses. If that's true, let's say it's 4 or 3 losses, it's too many. And you start to notice a theme. Our outcasts only get a run on when their game is lost. Feel bad for Matty and Volpato. So there's truth to that. When you integrate a youngster, Volpato, he should be put on, I think, in times where it's not so desperate. Johannes checks in and says, I agree with you. The team has improved immensely in their mentality. We were hard done by biased refs in 18 bad minutes with a rotated squad. Yeah. Also, mistakes. And I don't want to just say Roma were perfect, right? I understand those mistakes, but mentality, awful refereeing and a heavy rotated squad. So there's a lot under the radar here. I think that we as fans need to also keep in mind. Rocco said, I read that Premier League teams willing to pay $70 million for Tammy. If that's true, sell him now. What do you think on Tammy? I think Tammy has a lot of work to do. I think if we look at other players who have 50 to 60 million, 70 million euro valuations, they're a far cry of what Tammy has offered this season. I still think he can be a really good player. I like that he works for the team. He links up well. However, as far as being a true number 9, I think he's almost better as a layoff guy, to be honest with you. Those crosses that go to the back post and far post, he often doesn't read them, I think because he's gotten into this habit of being a guy who combines with his teammate rather than one who just looks like to be on the very end of the stick waiting to get the final ball in. So there's aspects where Tammy needs to really improve. And I want to imagine he knows that too. I love Tammy. I love all my players. But, there's a lot of ways for Tammy to improve for sure. Sometimes his touch is heavy. I think he's still our best technical option above Belotti. However, there's another side that I want to see of Tammy. I want to see an angry one, aside from just one that is just linking up. I think he can be more than that, and he has this skill set to be. He just needs a little bit more work tactically. Abraham's still, 24 years old, guys? I'm going to click here quick. Tammy Abraham. I know, and a lot of fans probably look at, Osimhen, and they're like, I want Tammy to be that. But don't forget, Osimhen was like a 70 million euro purchase by De Laurentiis. So Tammy's 25 now. It's got to happen in the next year. Really the next year. I don't want to say or two. Like right now, 26 years old, 25 years old. You got to have 15 to 20 goals per season. I'm going to keep going through some of these comments. Ed says, same tactic we won the Scudetto with. Rocco asks, would you want Roma to pay 30 million to 40 for Fratesi, given he's an Italy selection and diehard Roma boy? Yeah, for sure. I know that on paper, and you look at the Fratesi deal, it's probably hard to swallow for the accountants because this is a player Roma let go for relatively little money. I think it was below 6 million euros, and now that's probably an accurate figure here, 30 to 40 million euros. And he's one from our Primavera that we could have just kept. But also, I think it shows how flawed the loan system is. And if there was a B team and a player like Fratesi could grow within the Roma system, we wouldn't be in this type of economical situation. But I think it is worth spending that on him. I think you put the money on the table because he's worth it. He's one of the best center mids in this league. I thought that last year he still had signs of being raw, but I think that this year he's become very much the complete center midfielder. He's got an engine on him. He's got the technical ability, dribbles, light touches, easy going, and doesn't really get too bothered under the press. So he really just seems like a quintessential Mourinho center midfielder to me. So Sam, Gini Wijnaldum has to get back into the rhythm of things. This has been difficult after his injury, but today he comes up with a big goal. I know it's not just about goals, but I agree with you that he's not somebody who's probably be in the front three. But I think this is also a tactical selection by Mourinho in order to have a little bit more strength in keeping the defensive shape and rely more on the front two rather than just or I should say a full trident between something more fancy like Dybala, El Shaarawy, Tammy. He wants a little bit more guts in his setup. Ali says, by the way, guys, how's the audio today? It should be pretty good. I'm using my microphone, so let me know. I want to check my settings real quick and make sure everything is, we should be good. But throw a like up here. We're going to go a few minutes longer. We're at almost at a half hour mark right now. Throw comments if you're watching this recorded as well. After this troubling day, I've noticed about a third of the people in here that we got after Juventus. So thank you guys for being with me today, even though it's been frustrating and a disappointing one. Ali says, I also like that we put up a fight against the top side with one man down. Our mindset has improved under Mourinho, and I'm in total synergy with your wavelength, and I understand the frustration. Thank you, Ali. Ioanna says, we're still very much in reach of second place. The team looks better than last season. Yes, there are things that are still frustrating, but overall we're in a decent place this season. So we're lucky, too, that Inter drop points, Lazio drops, and Atalanta suffers a loss against Napoli. Joanna says, what do you know about the new Polish kid that debuted? Not much. I was surprised by that kid. I just forgot his name here. This is the first time I've seen him. So interesting that Roma Mourinho drops down to the Primavera continuously to bring up, how many kids I haven't seen in the entire time. I've been a Roma fan for more than 20 years, right? Yeah, more than almost like 23 years. I've never seen a manager introduce as many young players as we've seen Mourinho has. Anna says, sad result. Show character and think positive. Salmon says, Sassuolo always gets our youths. First Pellegrini, now Fratesi. Yeah, awesome. All right. Marco, I just found out what ASMR was because I'm a teacher, and we found out that the kids listen to like crinkling of potato chips and watch people eat food like on YouTube and TikTok. And I realized at that moment there was a major generational gap between myself and 15, 16, and even 18-year-olds. I was like, you listen to people eat chips, like the crinkling of the bag? I thought it was so weird. But anyway, I don't even want to think about it. But anyway, let's look at some of the comments from today. And by the way, that official ruling off the penalty kick is because the ball was still in play. My reasoning and my question is, how do you give that when the ball is dead? The play is dead. Like, what? It makes no sense for me. So we don't have any comments in yet. I think that this could be because Roma are going into a media silence following Mourinho's 2-match ban, if I remember correctly, and that looks to be true. Because I'm not seeing any quotes from any players or from Salvatore Foti. So, by the way, there was a really cool banner put up today. I'm going to post a link to it, which read, well, let me read it real quick. Whoever defends the colors of Roma is our ally, Dai Mourinho. So if you haven't seen that banner, I'm going to post that right here. You click on that link and it'll take you to that. Definitely one to save as like a phone banner or something. But let's look around at Forza Roma as well. They're probably the best news site out there in Italian. Get it straight from the horse's mouth. They do a good job at recording the radios and whoever has to talk about Roma. But, it's if you want to, the fans, somebody on social network said, if you want to be the protagonist, go into theater. That's probably the quote of the day. If you want to be the star, go into theater, Fabri, because what you did today is unacceptable. Ali says, because Roma, guys, throw in a couple more comments before we wrap things up. Ali said, because Roma can't spend much money in the following transfer markets, do you think our strategy or even staff in the scouting department needs a change? I think you'll see what we saw very much in the last year, which was going after free transfers and spending a little bit here and there. Like with Selic, he was the only player who cost actual dollars in the transfer market, 7 million euros. It's a shame we haven't seen him too much. But I do think that youngsters will continue to be incorporated within the first team. I think that's a strategy which probably comes down from top to bottom, which is in line with Mourinho probably also not having as many options, because when you play on three fronts, there's just the overall season which weighs in and injuries. So, but as far as the scouting department, that's an interesting point. If Roma start to adopt players like Solbakken, right, and looking outside of Italy and outside, let's say, the big 5 leagues, and getting players in from different departments, the way that, even if you could say that Napoli has, where Kim was pretty much on the radar. He was going to go to Tottenham, but like Kvaratskhelia, right? You look at these players and, if you just do your research and you're good scouting, you could play it off well. I wish the audio voice was a bit high. How's that now, Adnan? I hope that maybe makes a difference here. I didn't realize that I could actually set my volume on my microphone here. Rocco says, who would be the perfect coach for Roma if Mourinho does leave in the summer and makes Marco's dream come true? To me, it's De Zerbi. I know that might be a little bit hopeful right now. I think that he is like the perfect segue after Mourinho because he can play in a low block, but then also knows how to build up very quickly. He does it in a bit of a different motion with a lot of back and forth passing, like let's call it horizontal. So I also think he's probably the top 3 active Italian managers right now too, even if he's really young, and people might say it's too quick to judge that when you have other guys like Allegri, let's say the Inzaghis or Spalletti right now. But for me, De Zerbi is top 3 Italian managers for sure. Best director, the old school Sabatini. He's the guy who eyeballed it, did not use statistics. Marco says, come on, Marco. Your poor grandma. Yes, God bless grandma. Giannis says, Fratesi looked good today. Where would you slot him if he came next season? I think that Fratesi could allow you to play in a 3-man midfield. It's a good point. If you put Matic a little bit deeper, and then you had Wijnaldum and Fratesi, or Wijnaldum and Cristante even, so, on 2 sides, and then played like a double pivot, and then Fratesi became the more advancing when Roma went into attack. Oh, that's nice to hear, Rocco, about your son. Ooh, Lugano in Switzerland? That sounds legit. I would love to see some pictures of that. But anyway, yeah, De Zerbi, I think, is the great Italian manager right now. Perhaps even more than Conte after his Tottenham struggles. But, even a guy like Conte, he needs the best players out there, where De Zerbi seems to make wine out of any water that he's given. Guys, throw a like up there, please. Let me know what you think in the comments as well. And we'll be back. Let's see what the schedule looks like going into this team. Going into next week. I know we'll be out in Spain on Thursday, and then Lazio. So that's a late game. That's 4 p.m. in New York time, because we hit daylight savings already. I woke up today and I was like, I can't believe it's 10 a.m. But it was really my 9 a.m. But I forgot about daylight savings. And then we've got the derby at 1 p.m. next Sunday, and then Sampdoria to begin April. And then it kind of goes into a bit of an easier lineup here with Sampdoria, Torino, Udinese, and then Atalanta on the 23rd. Let's see if they got something on my birthday. Roma Milan, right around my birthday. Maybe I can get a little gift with a win for that. Ali says, I don't know how to thank you enough for creating quality content. Aw, thank you, man. I appreciate that. Good reasoning. Is there anything we could do to help this community grow other than sharing the streams, etc.? Thank you, guys. Just that. Keep on coming. Thank you. And keep on giving advice, what you want to see, and things that you think are talking points, people that you want to come on. If you want to come on and tell your story, you're more than welcome to as well. Start like a little bit of a Roma universe. I know that the official website did that for a while, but they seem to have taken a step backwards with that type of content and have gone in a different direction. But what I would love to do, and I was talking to another guy in our stream, often comes, as I want to really start to interview fans and talk to them about how they became supporters of this club, because this is very much an international channel, and there's people from West Africa, from Indonesia, from all over the world, which is insane, connecting to me right here in New Jersey, of all places. So throw in the Sopranos references if you want. Thank you. And yes, Lazio game is key. What would that mean? What could that do to our emotions? How happy would you be next Sunday if Roma come away with that win, especially to crush Lazio's Curva Nord, who will definitely be sold out for that one. All right, we'll talk soon. I'll be back with a short or preview, something. We'll stay in touch. Thanks so much, guys. Ciao.